Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 273.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm really excited today. Here's why. You're like, Jay, you say that all the time. And I do, because every time I want you to really understand, I am genuinely excited every time because there's so much to business. There's so many things to learn. And today we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects. In fact, the very reason we do business is what I believe today's guest knows all about. Because really, you want to get to the point where you work by referral. Today's guest has been called many things, among them referral guru, North America's most referred real estate professional. Here's why, though. What would it be like? Just imagine if you started your career today and 3 years from now, you netted $1 million. Would you be happy? I think so, because he's done that. What if 8 years later, you sold half your business for another $1 million? Would you be happier? Probably. But here's the thing that I think is the most impressive. What if you could keep a book as number one for 5 years in your category, running with no marketing, no referrals, none of that traditional stuff, all by word of mouth? That says to me, we are definitely talking to the referral guru, none other than Michael Maher. Hello, sir. How are you?
Jay Massey, doing fantastic. It's always an honor and always a privilege. Thank you. Great intro. I appreciate that very much.
Thanks for being here. I know you're going to have a lot to share because this topic of referrals is one of the ones that I am always telling people. I'm like, you're doing business to get to the referral. Trust me, that's really, really what you want. And it's so exciting to have someone who I believe is going to help all of us get better at doing exactly that. So one of the things that I like to do, though, before we get too far, is I like to always ask everybody a very similar question at the beginning. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. So, Batman, Robin, Captain America is very popular right now. Iron Man. Before a superhero was, before they got dressed up, before they, started saving people with their special skills, all things I think entrepreneurs do, the superhero was usually just a person in some way, shape, or form. So what I'd like to know, what we would like to dig into is, before the book, before the companies, before netting your $1 million, before becoming known as North America's most referred real estate professional, who is Michael Maher?
Wow. So I like the superhero analogy because I'm actually wearing a Superman shirt right now.
Of course.
I'm not wearing the tights, just so the visual is not complete for anyone. But my kid thinks I'm a superhero. He's 7, so
yes.
I wear a lot of superhero shirts when I'm hanging out at home, getting ready to play catch with him. So, and I always kind of compared business with like the superhero and how I conduct business and how I see the world almost is when I see a lot of people, I see them like they're Superman, but they're Superman. Like imagine Superman kicking back on the couch with his feet up and he's eating a bowl of chips and he's watching TV, right?
Right.
And he's watching TV all day long. Now, what would you think if you saw Superman all day, every day, eating like a bowl of chips? What would you think about it?
That the picture is hard to imagine because it just doesn't look right. Doesn't even sound right.
Yeah. So what would you think if Superman was spending his time that way, what would we think about Superman?
He's sick, got a cold, needs to go to the hospital. Is there kryptonite nearby? What's going on, dude?
That's right. And what would we think about his potential? What would you think about, like, how he's fulfilling his potential?
He's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to be honest with you, that's kind of how I see the world. Is I see everyone as superheroes, like you said. And I see that the superpower for people is love. I truly believe that. I truly believe that everybody's superpower is love. And love is a superpower. And how we put that into play is generosity, is what we do each and every day. When we go to have our epitaph on our tombstone, everybody always wants the word love used. Loving husband, loving father. They don't want top producer 2012 on the tombstone.
Right.
So what I do essentially is I help people become their true superhero by helping them take their love and put it into action through generosity that leads to reciprocity, referrals, profitability, and prosperity. So if you boiled me down to a nutshell, it's my mantra is be love, do generosity, have prosperity. So be, do, have, and my epitaph's already written. Hopefully we don't have to worry about that for a while. But if you give me an ounce of interest, I'll give you a ton of love. And that is my mantra. That is who I am. That's who I've been for a long, long time before, the 10 years to be an overnight success that I've been through. So that's who I am in a nutshell. Man, I just walk in love. I be love, and I do generosity. I do acts of value to everybody. I'm basically a walking, talking Oprah every single day, where I'm helping others and adding value, and then they want to reciprocate. And so when they want to reciprocate, I help them help me by saying, hey, listen, if you want to reciprocate, the best way to do it is in the form of referrals. And they send me a lot more referrals than I could ever handle. Right. And it's like with your investors. What if you had all these people that wanted to give you their money to go and run your flip play, your fix and flip play, and you had all these investors that wanted to just give you all this money, and you were like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to ramp up the team that's doing the fix and flip. So, that's what happens with this plan. So that essentially that's me, right? I was a teacher. I come from very, very poor history, very impoverished, from a small town in Kansas. Grew up in a shack. My dad was a teacher making $2,500 a year. Mom stayed home with 5 kids. My dad drove the bus for $50 a quarter at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he coached 3 sports in the afternoon for free. And of course, there were raises as my dad taught longer and longer, but grew up in very humble surroundings. Hand-me-downs. I had the 4th version because I'm the 4th out of 5. So it's one of those where that very humble beginnings. And the way I made it happen was not necessarily business savvy or anything. It was truly learning how to say yes when people asked me if they could help me. When someone says, can I help you? Or what can I do for you? Or how can I help you? You have an answer. You say yes, right? And that came from my dad. And that is one of the greatest business advice quotes I've ever heard ever, is when somebody offers to help you, you say yes. Because you can always temper and or taper how they help.
Interesting. I've never heard that before, because I was going to ask a little bit more. Like you said, learning how to say yes would imply that it's a skill, and therefore some of us might not know how to say yes. And you're saying specifically when someone says, can I help you, or how can I help you?
Yes. The answer is yes. Right? When somebody compliments you, just say thank you. Right? Isn't that amazing? When somebody gives you a compliment, it's so amazing to watch how people react to that. You mean this old thing? When really they spent their entire paycheck to make it happen and to match the shoes, right? But right. It's one of those where I found it most helpful is I add a lot of value and people want to reciprocate. and they say, listen, Michael, holy cow, thank you so much. You helped me with this presentation, or you helped me with this, with getting connected to the right person. How can I help you? And the answer is referrals. The answer is always referrals. When somebody says, what can I do for you, or how can I help you? The answer is referrals. And a lot of times they'll go, oh, wow, what kind of person are you looking for? Or who are you looking for? Or who are you looking to get connected to? And then we have a conversation about who I'd like to be connected to. And then I get connected to that person, and, it turns into business. It turns into more opportunities to add value and get more reciprocation.
Indeed, indeed. Now, interestingly, okay, so we're going to say referrals is your superpower?
Yes, definitely.
Got it.
Relationship building to the point of referrals. Yeah.
Totally understood. So my question then is kind of like, as the superhero grows, at the beginning we have our origin story, but there comes this point at which he or she discovers that, hey, I have a superpower, and then they're often conflicted or confronted with the decision, am I going to use it for good or evil? So what I would love to hear and know is, how did you discover that this was your superpower and then decide to use it for good?
Yeah, wow. So these are great questions, and I've never been asked these. This is about the 1,000th podcast I've done, and I've never been asked these questions. And they're so powerful for the audience as well as me to think through them. I will tell you that I did not know that I had a superpower. What I thought I was doing, I thought everyone was doing. And I went rapidly to 187 transactions in my third year. And I didn't know, nobody had ever done that in Kansas City, but I found out later. And then I was interviewed by, and a lot of times we all need someone to put up a mirror to really, for us to see who we really are and what we've achieved. And my mirror was a guy named Howard Brinton, who he interviewed me for his series of called Star Power. I became a Star Power star in the real estate world, and he had a list of 100,000 agents. And when he interviewed me, he called me America's most referred realtor, America's most referred real estate professional. And my phone and my email blew up. It was just, I was inundated with all these requests for systems and what we had, how we did it and what we did. And so that's when I knew that we had something super going on. And I will tell you, it's one of those where, okay, so I don't know if I'd ever considered using it for bad, right? But I've gone from using it for clientele in a real estate business to helping others feel this really fulfilling life that I have by teaching others, because I actually did 218 transactions 1 year. And in January, a group hired me to speak. And I went in and spoke, and they announced the attendance at the event as 218 people, 218 real estate agents. And the number, it was just uncanny. We'd just done our numbers for the previous year. And it was like, that is, here I am. In the next 3 hours, I'm going to impact the same amount of people that I impacted over all of last year. And I can teach them this methodology and my mission. And I'm actually an introvert. I'm an introvert, right?
Right.
But my mission and my message is bigger than me being an introvert. So that's why I go out and teach people how to do business by generosity, how to help others, and show them how helping others helps themselves.
Man, I'm loving this because you sound, well, we sound a lot alike. I did because I didn't know. I mean, when you started, you're like, I didn't know I had a superpower. Guys, how many times have you wondered, do you have one? Yes, you have one. You may need somebody to point it out to you. And then at times we all do. We all do. And I think that's amazing. And more amazing than that is I ran into a very similar situation myself. I had only had about 117 units at the time. And I'm like, okay, great. This is all great for me, but what else can I do? And I mean, because, there's still homes available. There's still people who need clean, safe, affordable housing. And what you just said about realizing how many more people you could help if you would be willing to share the message, and knowing that you're introverted and the message and the mission is bigger than you. I'm just like, How did we didn't grow up together, but this is what I know. We are definitely very, very similar. So this is awesome. So help me understand something. You've gone through many businesses, or many cycles, I will say, and you speak about cycles of business. Take us through this, because here's what I know. I know there's a number of people right now who are sitting on let's call it the struggle bus, right? They're sitting on the struggle bus, wishing they were not on it. They want to get off, and you clearly have a way. So what does that look like for them?
Oh, I love it. So, and here's, first of all, what's amazing about what you just said is you're the tip top. You may be as accomplished as anyone that's ever interviewed me on a podcast, right? I would say, Dave Ramsey, Darren Hardy, Jay Massey, right? You guys have seen the tops of what you're doing, right? You're masters. And that's what I love about this conversation, is that there's so much evidence around how these people at the top have gotten there through a similar methodology. And generosity seems to be a current throughout all of those people. So there's 3 cycles, right? So let's talk about the first cycle, and this is essentially. So this is what I call the chase cycle. So let's just talk about typical sales, right?
Okay.
And this is also how a lot of investors go about getting money, and investors, and they go about getting deals and getting things, right?
Right.
So here's the deal: is Jay, if you were have you ever been chased by a stranger?
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh my God, seriously? Like after 5th grade, when it was really cool to be chased by a stranger.
Yeah, well, what it was is it was in a parking lot, and I'm like, I don't know this dude, so it was really scary. But it turned out to be okay. It was just, at the moment, I was kind of scared, but it's all good. It happens.
So you have 2 choices, right? When you're chased by a stranger, you have 2 choices. What are those 2 choices?
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight, right? So it's the same thing in sales, right? They teach you in sales to essentially market to and chase strangers. And guess what? All of the strangers tend to do what we do when we're chased, which is fight or flee. Luckily, only 3% of them tend to just want to fight. 3%. But the thing is, I mean, you've worked with that guy, right? Or you worked with that girl. It's just like,
I'm unfortunately thinking of names right now, but yes.
Yeah, they just said yes, and it was way too easy. And they were actually hanging out looking for a fight, and we ended up doing business with them. Well, when you're, unknowingly dropped into a fight, you have 2 people fighting. What do you call that?
A fight?
That's right. So a fight.
Okay, I was like, did I miss it? Did I?
No, you got it. I like fight better than any of them. But at the end of a fight, how do both people feel?
Exhausted, tired, beat up.
Exhausted, tired, and beat up. So how likely is that person who you considered a partner or a client to refer you more people?
Yes. Why? No, I don't want my friends to go feel exhausted, tired, and beat up.
That's right. So not only are they not going to refer you, but honestly, with that type of person, you really don't want them to refer you. And you might think, well, I don't really have that person, or I don't know. But here's the thing you do. How many people that are listening to this go to Facebook and they get a notification, and the notification says, name commented on your post, and you cringe because you just know it's going to be argumentative, controversial, or it's not going to be positive.
Oh, this is
right?
great.
We have those people.
Yes.
They're just out there,
yes.
right? And isn't it funny how they tend to know each other and hang out with each other? So luckily, that's only 3%.
Right.
The other 97%, and that's probably me and you, we flee, right? We just avoid you at all costs. But the typical salesperson is taught to what? Follow up, chase,
relentlessly,
nurture, right? Keep going. So they chase, and the thing is when they finally get us on the phone again, they're selling. They're in high performance selling mode, right? They are literally convincing, overcoming objections. But what do? We say no, thank you. We're going to keep going. So we flee, and what does the typical salesperson do? They keep chasing, and they keep chasing, and finally they get the consumer cornered. And that person only has two options at that point. They can fight back, or what most people do is they go into passive aggressive mode. And what's a passive aggressive person looking the entire time they're working with this person that chased them down?
For flaws?
Yeah, they're looking for a way out, right? They're looking for to get out. And the thing is the typical salesperson has given it to them because they have overpromised the entire way along the process. Like, I can get it done in 2 days. I can get you a house in 30 days. I can do this in 60 days. I can do the whole process in 10 days, right? And I can do it for $10,000 less than that guy. Well, here's the thing: is because that person overpromised, they only have one way to deliver, and that's under deliver. Well, when a company or a salesperson under delivers, the person who got the promise and the person didn't live up to the promise, as a client or a consumer, you're frustrated. You're like, oh my God, I totally feel like I got taken there. And the salesperson's not very happy either, because most salespeople don't go into the business to frustrate people. But the thing is a frustrated person, are they likely to refer?
No. Never.
So guess what? They got to go chase some more. So what I've just explained is the first of the three cycles, which is the chase cycle. The chase cycle is what I call the cycle of discontent. And this is why more entrepreneurs and more salespeople commit professional suicide than anything else, is because the way sales is taught has been wrong for 1,000 years. And that is chase. They either fight or they flee. You chase them or you get into a fight. If it's a fight, it's a battle, you're both exhausted, no referrals. If they flee, you promise, you sell, you story sell, you overcome objections, you close, you always be closing, you ABC them, you go through all of the A through Z closes until you finally get them. And then you've overpromised the whole way, you underdeliver, they're frustrated, no more referrals, you got to keep chasing. That, my friends, is the chase cycle, and that makes me want to welcome you to sales. Right? Nobody wants to do that.
Well,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's interesting because no one wants to do that for sure. One of the things I've always maintained, I tell people all the time, they're like, Jay, I don't like sales. I'm like, no. You like sales. It's not selling. That's the part that stinks. Sales is awesome. Not selling. Oh, different story. But not understanding that there's a relationship from the first moment. I'm just loving everything that I'm hearing. And for those of you who have been hanging out for a while, I'm excited about this particular conversation. So this is where I'm going to remind you. I know you're washing the dishes and I know you're on the treadmill. Take some notes, because this is going to be gold. So what's the next cycle? Yes. I'm hoping that you are catching what Michael and I are really talking about. And at the end of the day, referrals make things happen. Relationships make things happen. And I know you know that. In fact, I think that's one of the reasons why you keep listening, which I appreciate you doing. Feel free to share with a friend. One of the things that I want to make sure that everybody understands is, well, if you want to take this to the next step, let me give you something. How about a free PDF copy of my book, Cashflow Diary, 10 Steps to Creating Wealth in Any Economy? All you got to do is go to cashflowdiary.com/free book. Again, that's cashflowdiary.com/free book. And you can grab one. Let's get back to the rest of the interview.
Yeah, if there's a negative cycle or a downward spiral or whatever you want to call it, there must be a positive. There must be a positive cycle.
Right.
And the positive cycle is the referral cycle and what we call the attract cycle. One is the cycle of discontent or the chase cycle. Well, the opposite of chasing is the attract cycle. So that's the referral cycle. So it's very simple. It's just 3 steps. You get a referral, and then you tell them the truth. That's the beauty of working with referrals, is you can just tell them not only the truth, but tell them like the worst case truth. Tell them the nuclear case truth. Totally under promise. So you're going to tell them the truth. You're going to under promise. Just tell them how the process works with you. And then the process will come out. And when the process comes out, you just do better than the worst case scenario or even the nuclear case scenario. You just do your job. You perform. You say, listen, sometimes this takes 90 days, but you perform it in 45 days or 60 days. Well, you have over delivered, which gets a wow from that client. Well, what does a wowed client do?
They go to the barbershop and say, you know what, I got a guy. My guy, yeah. Guess what my guy just did? Guess what I just did? Yeah, totally understood.
Oh, they tell everybody, they refer you, and you're on the referral cycle. It's really that simple. And I will tell you that the one untapped resource of working with referrals is the consultation. We should always set down anybody that we see as a client, which could be an investor, it could be a buyer or a seller, it could be a referral partner, it could be anything. But we set them down and we go through the process and under promise. We tell them, here's how it could work. Here's how it's going to work. And then, by just simply describing the process and the worst case scenario, warning them, we're actually doing them a service by being proactive and letting them know. Like if somebody came into your booth right now and said, well, here's the thing. What if the fire alarm went off right in the middle of this interview? Right?
That would not be your building. Required.
Yeah, that would not be good.
let's hope not.
You're like, holy crap! I'm in a consolidated room. What the heck, right? And now let's change that. Let's say somebody comes into the office before this interview and just says, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know, in an hour we're going to run a fire drill. I just wanted to let you know that." Now, when the fire drill or the fire alarm goes off, how do you react? Is it differently?
Yeah, there's no adrenaline. No adrenaline.
Yeah, there's no adrenaline. There's no anxiety.
Right.
So what we're really doing by showing them and cautioning them about the process and the problems during the process is we're actually doing them a service. Now, when we actually go through the process, none of those fire drills or fire alarms actually come up. So the client is actually wowed and thankful and grateful that those bad things didn't happen that you warned them about. So They think you did an even better job. And honestly, what you did is you did your job. So you wowed them, you're going to get referrals. Now, people all the time, they ask me, how do I get people on the referral cycle? I want more people on the referral cycle. Well, referrals are a result. They're a byproduct of something else. You have no control, unfortunately, of how many referrals or when you get referrals. But you do have control of something else, and that's the other cycle.
Yep. Yes, I'm loving this. Hopefully, again, guys, take notes. Let's keep going.
So the third cycle, you want more people on the referral cycle? It starts with the generosity cycle. What we have discovered is that when you go back into your history of why you got a referral, so let's say you got a referral today. Well, you didn't get a referral today because of something you did today.
Right.
What we've done is we go back in your history and we find out, okay, what was it that actually tipped a domino in your favor? And those dominoes were falling all the weeks, all the time you were working. And the day you got the referral, the domino fell back in your lap. Well, what we have discovered is that the thing that caused you to get a referral most often is an act of proactive generosity. Proactive generosity. Proactive means that they were surprised by your generosity. You helped them even with a kind word or by helping them achieve a goal or helping them conquer a challenge. You helped them, but they weren't ready for it, right? It wasn't like a hurricane hit and you donated water. Right? It wasn't anything like that. It was actually, they were already in a pretty good place, but you helped them go to an even higher level. Well, that's a proactive act of generosity. So one of the things that we teach quite a bit is how to practice proactive generosity. So this proactive generosity happens. Well, what happens when we give to another? What are they likely to do?
They're wanting to do the same.
That's right. They want to give back. That and you get this probably better than most, right? Is that reciprocity kicks in. So they want to help you back. So generosity, leads to reciprocity. But I have to tell you, we hit it on this earlier, is the thing that I have to teach people is how to be appreciative receivers. People want to help us. They just don't know how, because we haven't been specific with exactly how we're teaching and training others to help us. People with me, they know the way to express appreciation or the way to add value to my life is simply referrals. So that's the third step in the generosity cycle. Generosity leads to reciprocity. We need to train and teach the people that want to reciprocate back to us that the best way to do that is through referrals. All right, so we get referrals. Referrals, there's a lot of different types of business out there. But referrals have one thing in common across industries, and referrals are the most profitable type of business. So generosity leads to reciprocity. It comes back to you. Be an appreciative receiver. Reciprocity leads to referrals. Because you have a referral-based business, you will now have a profitable business. So referrals lead to profitability. Well, profitability is your business having money, which is why you have a business. Even nonprofits want to make money, right? They want profit.
Right.
So profitability, and I know that maybe some listeners out there are actually running a nonprofit unintentionally, but get on this cycle and you will be more profitable. So profitability. Now your business having money is fantastic, but there's something better than your business making money and business earning money. So what are some things that are more important than money, Jay?
I was thinking goodwill when you were talking.
Goodwill. Absolutely. What else?
Goodwill. What else? That time with my children?
Time. Absolutely. Family.
Yes.
Relationships, right? How about freedom? More important than money?
Yes. Yes, the ability to choose is that's how I typically express the word freedom. It's just the ability to choose.
Absolutely. So if we rolled all of those words, time, relationships, family, health, freedom, choice, into one word, there is one word that describes all that, and that is prosperity. Prosperity. So generosity leads to reciprocity. Reciprocity leads to referrals. Referrals lead to profitability. Profitability leads to prosperity, and prosperity leads to more generosity. And the thing is we all have a level of prosperity. It does not take money to be generous. You can start where you're at. You can say
Whoa. Hold on.
Okay.
Somebody didn't hear that, and they need to hear that. Say that again.
Yeah, so generosity. This is the generosity cycle in a nutshell. Generosity leads to reciprocity. Reciprocity leads to referrals. Be an appreciative receiver. Referrals lead to profitability, your business having money. Profitability leads to prosperity, and prosperity leads to more generosity. But you can start where you are. You are prosperous right now. You have a level of prosperity simply because of where you were born and your situation now. But prosperity, the 7 ways to give massive value first, only one of them is money. You can think about another and take some action. That's the power of a handwritten note. You can think about someone and take action and talk for them. In other words, you could refer them, or you could talk positively about them. You could do a 5-star review on Amazon or a 5-star review on Yelp, right? That is talk or thought plus action.
We'll take one on iTunes. That'd be good.
Or a 5-star review on iTunes for this, right? Cash Flow Diary. Make it happen. So, all right. So that's the generosity cycle. And I want people to look at this as, all right, is you can run your business on a unicycle, right? The unicycle is, as we know, it's a one-wheeled bike. And there are very few people in the world who can ride a unicycle. And what's the hardest thing about riding a unicycle?
I've never successfully done it, so I'm going to say balance.
Balance. Oh my God. Are you telling me that people struggle with balance in life?
No, never.
No. Yeah. No. So people struggle with balance. And why can you not have balance? Is because they're trying to bike on a unicycle. That's why salespeople and entrepreneurs typically struggle the most with balance. Well, there must be a better cycle. And that is the bicycle. The bicycle. Right. So look at the 2 cycles, the referral cycle and the generosity cycle, as a bicycle. The front wheel is referrals. Well, what's unique about the front wheel of a bike?
It doesn't have a chain on it?
Doesn't have the chain, right? So what else is unique about the front wheel?
I don't know.
Yeah. So it's there to guide you. It's there to steer you, right?
Okay.
And so every decision your business should make should be, will this help us attain more referrals?
Got it.
Will this help us earn more referrals? So referrals are the guide. It's the steering device. But here's the thing. What's unique about the back wheel of a bicycle?
Unique. It's the one with the chain on it.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
So it has the chain. And not only that, but the back wheel is where you put your energy. The back wheel is where you cycle. That's where you pedal.
I
So
see.
the key here is you put your activities, you put your pedaling, you put your energy into generosity. Put your energy into the generosity, and that gets the generosity cycle turning, which spits out the referrals, which gets you on the referral cycle with more people. So the activities that we should be doing on a daily basis is simply generosity, proactive acts of generosity to others, helping others, adding value to their life, and then be ready when they want to reciprocate, and let people know that the finest way to reciprocate is through referrals, which will add to your bottom line and will also add to your goodwill.
You know,
which some more.
What's interesting to me about what you're saying is it's not that, like, if someone right now is saying, how do I get referrals? I can't get referrals, or I don't have business. It's not that they couldn't get business. It could simply be that they haven't trained or stated to people that they have already served successfully how that person could express their gratitude. That's what I keep hearing.
It really, and not only that, but the secret here is to get as many people to ask you, how can I help you? So how do we get more people asking us how we can help them? Well, it's simply by helping them. And when we help them, like I said, it doesn't take money, it doesn't take time, it doesn't take a lot. It really doesn't, to help another. So we help another, and then they're going to say, and I will tell you at the top of the top, the Jay Masseys, the Michael Mahers, the Dave Ramseys, the Richard Bransons, the Darren Hardys, the Zig Ziglars, right, is they are more likely to reciprocate at a higher level than other people. They're more likely to say, how can I help you, than any type of person, right? So, and the powerful thing is influential people like us can help others even more than they can help themselves.
Right.
Because of our network, because of what we have to offer. So it's one of those where we need to help people in such a way, give massive value first, that they ask, how can I help you? And then the answer is referrals. The answer is referrals. When somebody says, what can I do for you? You say referrals. When they say, how can I help you? The answer is referrals.
The funny thing is, Michael, you may not know this, but one of the things that I have constantly asked everyone in the audience, every one of our students, everyone who is trying to go out there to build business, it's a simple phrase, and it's along this exact same process. It's just simply educate to dominate, meaning take the time to educate first. Educate on the front end. Pour into them. Typically, we play like a lot of cash flow 101 games with our potential clients or would be first, long before we sit down and do any sort of interview or consultation or trying to figure out, what do you want? How much money you got? All that other stuff. It's like sit down, give to them first. And after that, hour and a half, 2 hours, it's a completely different relationship. And the thing is so many people have been able to build their business literally from a board game by giving first. And it's funny how much resistance there is to this process. And this is my question. Why is it so consistent that when it comes to, when you and I know, we know, like, look, if you just take the time to give first, if you take the time to, I think, what did you call it? You call it acts of value. I really like that phrase. You make these deposits. We get the fact if you make the deposits need to, they're going to take some time. They're going to water, grow, germinate, and eventually come back. But yet everybody wants to shortcut that. And like, how do I make money today? Where does that come from? And how do we get off that?
Yeah. I have to tell you that the first thing that we need to educate people about is that by giving first, they may reciprocate immediately. By never giving, they'll never reciprocate. I mean,
Right.
we've had instances where the very first time someone implemented just a few of the questions that I gave them, which is how to give massive value first to another. What happened is one person got 55 referrals at the very first time
Wow.
they implemented a few of these questions. So it will happen faster by doing it this way than it will trying to corner and close and overcome objections, right? Is quit telling people will work with you because they will work with you, right? I mean, you don't have to, story selling is a big deal right now. And I want you to know that nobody gives a crap about your story. I mean, I could say something a lot stronger than that. They really don't. But until what? Until what? They don't want to hear your story until what?
You know theirs?
Until you've heard theirs. Right? So notice that starts with questions and tell me your story and getting to know if you have a great story, hold it back, right? And get the other person's story. And then as you're telling your story, they may say, well, I've told you mine, tell me yours. And then you tell them, you can actually drip what you learned from their story into yours, and you can build common and uncommon commonalities, right? How you're like each other. So I think overall, just salespeople in general just need to listen more and talk less, right? It's not about your 7-second elevator speech, right? It's not about what you say. It's really not. It's about what you hear, and it's about how you listen. And that's far more. And the thing about listen, it's really cool to remember like how to listen, because listen and silent have the exact same letters in it. So the only way to listen is to be silent.
Indeed.
And I'll do that right now.
No. Oh, that's funny. No, I have a feeling you and I could talk for a very, very long time about this subject and many, many more, because it's the core of what we do. It's the core of what we do. But here's what I do know for sure. There's probably more than one individual right now who's like, man, I want to find out more about what Michael's doing. So how can they stalk you? How can I send some strangers to stalk you online?
Well, any friend of Jay's is a friend of mine, right? Okay. So come on over. Welcome to the generosity generation. Come on over and join us in the generosity generation. Get off the ego era train and get into the generosity generation. It's faster, it's more powerful, and it's more fulfilling. And the way to do that is simply go to michaeljmaher.com. Maher is Maher, Maher, michaeljmaher.com. And that will get you into our family, and will help you use generosity to build your business and get you referrals so that you can have more profitability and truly enjoy the prosperity that you should. And like Superman in the beginning, right, is I teach you how to take your superpower that we've all been gifted, which is love. We all have that superpower. Mm-hmm. But what it is, we've never been trained on how to use it. And that's what I'll help you do, is I will train you how to use your love as a superpower, utilizing generosity so that you experience prosperity. And that's what I do.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, as we get to the final question here, I got to ask, because this is going to be, I think it's going to be an awesome answer, because I know that there's an individual or two who right now they're listening, but let's pretend for a second, Michael, they're standing outside the superhero outfit store. They are ready to pick out their cape. They're thinking mask, no mask. They're not sure about that yet, but they think, I want to be one of those entrepreneurs. I want to try this thing. However, they're doing battle right now with that voice. And it's a voice I know you've done battle with. It's a voice I know you have wrestled to the ground. You have made it go silent at times, even when it was yelling very, very loudly. And yet you have managed to overcome. So let's just pretend that the person listening right now is actually going to do in the next 72 hours exactly what you say with no deviation. What would you tell him or her?
I would say pick the top 3 most influential people you know. And I mean, you need to know them. You need to know them pretty well. Or someone you know needs to know them pretty well. You need to reach out to those influential people. You need to ask them what their goals are, what is the challenge they're facing, and you need to help that influential person in one way or another. Connect them to a person, connect them to a book, do a Google search on their challenge to see who else has solved that challenge, but help the most influential people you know. Help the three most influential people you know. And I will tell you that what influential people do is that they reciprocate by saying, "That was awesome. Thank you. How can I help you?" And then be ready with your answer to be an appreciative receiver. Let them know referrals is the answer, but then you need to know when they say, "Oh, referrals, I don't even know what type of person you're looking for," or "Who are you looking to meet?" You have an answer. You're ready, right? And one easy one is, you know what? Who's the most successful person you know? You ask an influential person that, they will connect you up the chain. They will connect you to another successful person. Rinse, repeat, keep doing this. And the key is, no matter what you're looking to sell, no matter what business you decide to go in, you are building yourself a safety net so that when you are on the trapeze and you fall, you have your network there to save you, so that no matter what business you're in, you will have the support necessary. Your network is like a magic wand. It's more powerful than money because people can get you anything you want. Money can only buy material things.
Indeed, and well said. I thank you for taking the time to invest your vast and infinite seeming knowledge with us here, because I know somebody heard something that they needed to hear today. Thank you very much, kind sir.
My pleasure, Jay. Thank you so much for what you do for the industry and entrepreneurs in general. Truly, it's been an honor and privilege, and just know that you are appreciated at the mass level, and I appreciate you personally.
Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means you probably should get over to the website right now. It means you might be able to have one of those acts of value, those things to begin to deposit generosity today. Hey, here's an idea. Why not refer someone to this particular episode? Because I think it would do them and you a world of good. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.